With me in the studio today, I have travel writer Marina Vardy. Marina, how did you get started traveling?
People often think that those who travel running away from something. They're right. It's 24. I decided to run away from a dull job and a life that had grown stagnant. I said I wanted something more, then I had no idea what something more looked like. Thanks to a chance encounter, I met a woman in a cafe who had a Hannibal sailboat and a dream in exploring the world. Against my better judgment, I decided that was for the moment to accept her spontaneous suggestion to join her, despite the fact that I've always had a morbid fear of deep water.
And you didn't regret it.
At times it did, especially at the beginning, but rather to my own amazement, I got used to putting up with all sorts of physically difficult situations. That voyage changed the course of my life. It turned me into a travel writer and an adventurer, but above all, it made me an optimist. I couldn't ask for more.
What made you get started in writing?
That happened a good while before I set off traveling, and then I was inspired to write by what I saw. At about 12, I wrote a little verse that included the line, "People say I take after my dad. He went bald and gray in his 20s. Great. My mother stuck on the fridge, people laughed, and so began my passion for entertaining people with words. I've never been one for keeping my thoughts private, I'm afraid.
As a travel writer, what's your biggest challenge?
My greatest passion in life is a midday sleep in a hammock, but people don't want to read about that. So, in order to get a good story, I am doing things that most people avoid due to the ridiculously high risk. But to be honest, the worst thing is the fact that I constantly battle self-doubt for whether or not my work is any good. You really don't know till you get it done and others read and pass the verdict. When you're penning your life story, it can seem like you're being very self-indulgent. She's supposedly writing a masterpiece, but she hasn't bothered to brush her hair in weeks, my family saying, hushed, whispered behind my back. Or they do in my imagination, at least.
What advice would you give to someone who's considering going into travel writing?
I always assume that a travel experience are only going to be interesting to your grandma. Attention spans so slim, and it has to be more than description of what you saw. Nowadays, with only other calls on people's attention, you have to work harder than ever to keep your readers engaged. How can you give universal appeal to your story? How can you make it a page turner? Can you make your readers laugh, cry? Think of your travels like the backdrop to a greater story that grips the reader, not the story itself. After all, you're trying to grab the attention of an internet obsession generation which made you put a big job on your hands.
What's the biggest reward of life as a travel writer?
Writing teaches you to experience life as an observer. No matter what situation you're in, it is always the tiny over sitting in the back of your head narrating you the events around you. Bad encounters make good stories, and they're your stories to write about. If some horrible person treats you badly, not to worry, put in their next story. And I'm nice about kind people too, of course. Channeling your experience into art is deeply enriching, I find.
Okay, thank you very much, Marina.